Good morning and welcome to the National Newspaper Publishers Association's Let It Be Known. It is Thursday, July 21st, 2022. More than 3/4 of House Republicans, or roughly more than 160 of them, voted against legislation protecting interracial and same-sex marriage. The U.S. House of Representatives, led by members of the Congressional Black Caucus, did pass the Respect for Marriage Act, a bill that is seen as preemptive to any further Supreme Court assault on rights. It now heads to the Senate, where Minority Leader Republican Mitch McConnell from Kentucky, who is in an interracial marriage, has refused to publicly support the measure. Also, the Black News Channel is making a return, and Media Mogul Byron Allen is a new owner. We'll discuss that as well. And the Louisville Courier-Journal, the newspaper in the town where Breonna Taylor was killed by area police in a botched raid, launched a 4-week anti-racism challenge on July 1st as a call to action in the ongoing fight against bigotry and xenophobia. And finally, the home of Emmett Till and other African-American landmarks are receiving millions of dollars in grants for restoration and preservation. What does it all mean? We discussed this morning with Rashonda Tate Billingsley of the Defender Network in Texas, and of course, the publisher of Insight News, Al McFarland. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Well, we start this morning with this bill. The U.S. House passed. They to protect same-sex and interracial marriages. Is a vote that comes amid concerns that the Supreme Court's overturning of Roe v. Wade could jeopardize other rights. Rashonda, 47 House Republicans supported the legislation, but about 160 voted against it. And of course, it heads to the Senate, where it doesn't seem to have the support from Republicans there.
You know, this is really the whole fall in line to obstruct anything that may seem like it's positive for the Joe Biden administration. And, you know, it's so sad to me, because it's like a lot of these politicians now are governing, and that's their mantra: obstruction by any means necessary. I do admire the House for moving forward with trying to be proactive instead of reactive. We just got to learn to fight dirty. You know, and I hate to say that, but the days of Michelle Obama's when they go low, we go high is over. They don't play fair. They don't want to play fair. They're trying to have an obstructive agenda. And so we have to get in front of anything that we may see coming our way.
And Al McFarland of Insight News, Al, it's interesting because as we said at the top, so Mitch McConnell has not publicly supported this bill, and to the best of our knowledge, hasn't privately supported it either. Mitch McConnell is in an interracial relationship. We heard Justice Thomas when they talked about this. You know, he stopped short of saying he wants to get rid of interracial marriage. He's in an interracial marriage, and many of these Republicans are. I mean, Donald Trump, of course, is not in Congress. He's not in the Senate, but you know, he is the just about the face of the Republican Party, and of course, he's in an interracial marriage, right? His wife is from wherever she's from, I forget, but I mean, she's not an American.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what does that say?
Well, it shows duplicity, I think, in the culture, double standards all day and all night. On the one hand, people live a certain way and do certain things, but they turn around and in the public forum decry the idea of the rights and dignity and the freedom for all individuals. And they deny and decry based on political power that they have, that they think they have, and that they want to hold on to. The question here still boils down to white men deciding that they have a right to control the bodies, the lives of women in general, and then beyond that, the bodies and lives of other human beings. And the lives that are not in question, the lives whose rights are not in question, are the lives of white people in general, white men in general, and rich white men in very, very particular terms. So I think that the culture allows white people to live and walk in contradiction. While they may be married to and sleeping with and around people who are Black, they still have and expect their partners to support their idea that white supremacy must reign. That's where I think we are. I also think, though, that the questions being put before the public in a way that they haven't been before is a good thing. This discussion is a good thing. And I think we owe it to ourselves to examine both behavior, both practice against the promise and the policy goals we have in society around marriage, around rights, and beyond.
Yeah, Rashonda, you know, some may act surprised over these things, but this has been a long time in the making. We know Roe, since 1973, the Republicans have plotted to overturn that. But you know, there's some recent polls that talks about how they are trying to provoke a civil war, and the more you look at this, the more it seems to be that these polls are true.
You know, that's right. One of the things when the reason that many of these Republicans that really do not like Donald Trump, but supported Donald Trump was so that they could get to this point. They saw the bigger picture. They knew the end goal that they wanted, and they were willing to endure Donald Trump and his craziness to get there. And so here we are. We took President Obama took the nice road when they blocked Merrick Garland. And then they turned around and filled the Supreme Court with who they wanted. And that is their end goal. And Americans see it. The only thing is we got to, again, get in front of it. And, you know, that's the way they're playing the game. And now that we know the rules, we need to play the same.
Well, and that's something, Al, right? Go ahead.
Yeah, yes. I was listening to Rashonda. And Rashonda, I agree with what you're saying about how we have to look differently at what our tactics are going to be to resolve or to pursue and advance our interest. I'm trying to shift my head to not focus on what you said, and that is to if they go low, we go low, fight them on their ground. You're probably right, but let me say, for the sake of argument, I'm trying to put my head in the place where I say, how can we, first of all, continue to discuss, examine, promote, and create a public mind in our community around the ideas and ideals that represent our dignity, our legacy, and our future? How do we begin to articulate what society can and will be, and what must happen by us, within us, and as we operate within the social structure as well, to protect and preserve our interest and our vision of the future, our version of history? And that, the nuance here, and I'm sure you might not disagree with it, but the nuance is that it's another way of initiating the fight. The fight, however, is not reactive to white people because we know what they're going to do. And at one level, it's irrelevant, but we know it isn't because it's deadly. But at one level, it's irrelevant if we adopt and can effect an internal strategy within our culture, Black people, a governance structure that reflects what we mean to each other. If we can develop goals, strategies, plans that we pursue irrespective of what obstacles they put up, I think we're headed in a right and more holistic direction, and in a healing direction, because we have taken control more of our space, our dignity, our future, and we're fighting to build it, not fighting to resist them. But they may be one and the same. And yeah. I don't know what you think about it. It might be splitting hairs.
Yeah, well, the Respect for Marriage Act would repeal a law from the 1990s that defines marriage as a relationship between a man and a woman. It would also provide legal protections for interracial marriages by prohibiting any state from denying out-of-state marriage license and benefits on the basis of sex, race, ethnicity, or national origin. When you think about all of this, and I think Al articulated the hypocrisy that's involved, but they know that they are hypocrites, but this is the marching orders that they have, right, Rashonda?
Right. And I definitely agree with that. One of the things when I say fight, I believe wholeheartedly that we need to fight, but we don't need to lose sight of our own core values.
Right.
I believe that what we need to do is stop looking to expect that the other side will reach out to the olive branch that's been extended. We have to stay focused on our goals as well, because one of the things that the last election, a lot of us, our Democrats ran on is anti-Trump instead of a pro agenda, their own agenda. And I definitely don't think we need to go into this next election as an anti-only. I just believe we have to be smart in educating our community and moving our own goals forward.
Yeah.
By definition, you're right, Rashonda. By definition, our goal and our morality is anti-Trump.
Yes.
In and of itself. I mean, there's no bones about that. And I think we focus there. It'll guide and direct how we respond to and how do we craft, again, our path to our future, irrespective of the opposition. But we also know that there will be opposition at every level. And so that gives us all the more reason, the more compelling reason to be focused, to be clear, and to be incessant in our march towards our own liberation and freedom. And I believe that, and we believe that our march for freedom is the freedom for the whole country. At the end of the day, the freedom for humanity, because that's where we're coming from.
Yeah. Well, Al, Michelle Madison says, greetings to Al McFarland. You are making some excellent points. She says she enjoys your conversations with Al McFarland. And, tonight is going to be very interesting. The hearings, another prime time, January 6th hearings. We'll see, because a lot of these politicians that we're hearing from that are anti-interracial marriage and anti-Roe v. Wade, they are big time involved in what happened on January 6th. Many of them are. And tonight should be very explosive, to say the least. Also this morning, Al and Rashonda, Byron Allen's Allen Media Group has purchased the Black News Channel with plans to revive the bankrupt cable news outlet and significantly grow its distribution footprint. Allen's company is acquiring substantially all of BNC's assets for $11 million. A bankruptcy court in Tallahassee, Florida, formally signed off on the sale. It is available, BNC, that is, in about 45 million homes through companies like Comcast, Charter, and DirecTV. And Byron Allen now says that his company can grow that distribution to about 80 million homes within the next 6 months. Let's start with you on that, Rashonda. First of all, how important can the BNC become? And secondly, Byron Allen made a point of saying that it will now be Black owned.
I just bow down to Byron Allen. Byron Allen is the prime example of don't talk about it, be about it. He moves in silence. He goes and he just makes things happen. So I give the brother definite props for that. And I think it's important what he's doing. I love to see us go in and reclaim things that belong to us, because we see this with a lot of the other entities that many people think are Black publications or Black stations, and they're not really. Because someone has come in and decided, okay, these Black people are over here making money, let me go in and buy it. And I love that Byron is saying, no, this is going to be for us and by us. And he's moving in silence and making things happen. And I would love to just see him continue to branch out. This brother owns 27 local TV stations, the Weather Channel, all of this he's amassed. So I think it's wonderful that he's buying the Black News Channel. And I look for great things. I've seen what he's done with the Griot. And the Griot is a go-to place for news for the African-American community. They're breaking news stories that you won't get other places. And that's all a direct result of Byron.
Yeah. And Al, how viable can the BNC be now with a solidly Black owned and operated hierarchy?
I think completely and totally. I think its success is, I would say, almost inevitable, and it is because of several reasons. Number one, Rashonda, Byron's in this story represents what you're talking about, and that's fighting. And Byron, I have to sort of echo what you're saying, demonstrates that ability to take it to the mat. And he, in the past 2 years or so, had this epic battle with Comcast, and comes out of that battle extracting what in his mind, and I think the public would say is a victory, in getting access for his channels and his platforms through their network. So here he is now, in a sense, doing what white people do, buying something at pennies on the dollar. Now, this is a project that had taken a $100 million investment and put that in the hands of some good meaning and well-intentioned professionals who thought they could rally, and they probably could have with more money and more time, but that's not the way the world works. They ran out of money and time, and their benefactor pulled the plug on the Black News Channel. So in steps Byron Allen with $11 million?
Mm-hmm.
Fire sale. And the beauty is, number one, he's got the money. Number two, he's got the networks of people that have money around him. Number three, he's had a chance to watch both the promise and the challenges and the failure of the initial foray that Black News Channel represented. And number four, he's got personal, deep experience in media management, media ownership. Byron Allen is a trench fighter. He's a guerrilla fighter in the world of business. Goes bare knuckles, I think, into the marketplace, and smilingly makes his way to the goals that he's established for himself and for his businesses, and therefore he's creating empire for what is happening in that space for Black media. It's important that we elevate, celebrate, and show what he's doing as it's being done as a model for what we can all do in all of our businesses, not only in media, but in everything else that we are doing as Black people, and figure out how we train ourselves to watch for opportunity, seize the opportunity, create collaborations that create the wealth or the resources, the pocketbook to buy, to invest, and then to grow. So I think this is a good sign. What's going to happen is that I'm predicting Byron's going to go international.
Mm-hmm.
And the money is in recognizing the presence of Black people, not only in this country, but in the Caribbean and in South America, and our connection to the continent. And so the technology means that we can be together in ways we never have been before, and in ways that reflect direct contact and transactions without the interpretation of who we are to each other by white people. That hasn't existed before. It exists now. I think we're on a good place.
And we'll let you punctuate it there, Al. We also this morning, the Louisville Courier-Journal, the newspaper in the town where Breonna Taylor was killed by area police in that raid on her home, launched a 4-week anti-racism challenge this month as a call to action in the ongoing fight against bigotry. And so what the publication is claiming is that it is committed to learning from the Black community, speaking out against racism and ending white silence, according to the newspaper. And to do so, they partnered with the Earth and Spirit Center and longtime justice warrior Reverend Joe Phelps to co-facilitate anti-racism courses. As part of his month-long anti-racism challenge, the Courier-Journal has been publishing a list of 10 to 12 anti-racism activities each week since July 1st. They encourage participants to complete at least 3 of the following every week: watch a film made by Black artists, support a Black-owned business or a Black-led nonprofit by making a purchase or donation, or document personal experiences or observations of racism in a journal. Rashonda, your thoughts on this?
I appreciate the effort. I really do. It's something. But the people that need it aren't going to be sitting. They're just not going to be sitting and saying, "Okay, the paper has given me a challenge. Let me work on my racism." But it's something. I applaud them for that. I just don't know that it's going to make a whole lot of difference. The people that will be up to the challenge and take the challenge may already be allies. And I don't know how much watching James Brown is going to help you understand the community, but hey.
Say it loud. Say it loud. Al, the goal, they said, is to educate, raise awareness, and create more allies and advocates for the Black community. Is this the way to go about it?
It's one way. It's not the way. It's one way. And I think it should open the door for the Black community there and abroad to say, okay, good beginning, good, nod to this idea of inclusion. But what we really want to see is how many Black people are on your staff, how many editors and managers, how many people are running your financial department, what's your purchasing strategy? How many dollars are you spending with Black businesses in Louisville? And you likely are on the board of several of the major banks and corporations. That's what happens here. The people that run the paper are also on the board of the big banks and big companies. How do you use your influence not to tell little people, ordinary citizens in the community to read and think and watch a movie, but how do you demonstrate what it means to do things that are intentional and that make substantial transformative change? And that's something that we have to hold them accountable for, or at least raise the question. We raise the question expecting change, but our life doesn't depend on whether they get it or not. We have to build our own effectiveness in community in how we do business with each other, which we have to be critical of ourselves and challenge ourselves to do more of what they say they're trying to do. It's important because I remember that here's a story. Early on in Insight News's career, I was attempting to move my newspaper into what was then a white neighborhood for door-to-door distribution. And I remember people telling me, what makes you think anybody white has any interest in anything you got to say? Why are you bringing your newspaper to our neighborhood? Keep it over there in your neighborhood, North Minneapolis, where I'm sitting right now. And so that attitude is real.
Right.
White people feel that they don't have to pay any attention to what Black people think or feel or want, that that's a separate and side agenda, not the main agenda. We have to understand that that's kind of where they have lied to themselves and created a structure that is a lie that they try to uphold to maintain their advantage that keeps us at disadvantage. And we have to keep being committed to both dismantling that, and the dismantling of it comes by our ability to cooperate and build within our own culture. So that's a beginning. We have to challenge them everywhere, but that's not our thrust. They have to keep doing that. We got to keep doing what we're doing.
Yeah. Also, this morning, Emmett Till left his mother's house on Chicago's South Side in 1955 to visit relatives in Mississippi, where the teenager was abducted and, of course, brutally lynched and killed for allegedly whistling at a white woman. A cultural preservation organization announced that the house will receive a share of $3 million in grants being distributed to 33 sites and organizations nationwide that are important pieces of African American history. Some of the grant money from the African American Cultural Heritage Action Fund will go to rehabilitate buildings such as a bank in Mississippi founded by businessman Charles Banks, who won praise from Booker T. Washington, the first Black Masonic Lodge in North Carolina, and a school in Florida for the children of Black farm workers and laborers. Rashonda, go back to you. This is another gesture, if you will. But I mean, what do we get from this aside from preserving these landmarks?
One of the things that I would like us to see, or where I would like to see some money directed, is in the schools in field trips or education, because the whole reason of preserving this is to preserve our history, preserve our legacy. Well, with the way the schools districts are trying to whitewash and wipe out our history and our legacy, then these things will be irrelevant unless we can really get these kids there to see it for themselves. They're not going to learn it in school. So as parents, as educators, as community leaders, we have to take it upon ourselves to utilize these Black history sites that are being preserved.
Yeah, and specifically, Al, the home where Emmett Till Mobley and her son live will get funding for a project director to oversee restoration efforts, including renovating the second floor to what it looked like when they lived there. And that's interesting too. So is the goal here is to make that sort of a museum?
Well, I think preserving any and all aspects of our history is critical and important. And this is the right thing to do. I think we need to champion this and to encourage other activities like this nationally and in every community that we're in as well. Look, when I first visited London to visit relatives in London, we're Jamaicans, and some of us came here and some went to there. Cousin was driving me around on one of those open air tour buses, right? Every corner was a statue. Lord this, Count that, Duke this, Duchess that. Yep. And so after an hour or so of seeing all this glorification of colonists, of imperialists, right? I said, no wonder these white people think they all that. They remind themselves of their greatness every minute of the day. And so we need to take a page from that book, not reacting to them, but understanding how that question of creating a public mind works, and decide that it's important for us to document every single aspect of our life, of our lives. So anything we do that creates an archive, that creates a museum, creates a historic character around a place or an event or an idea is important. We have to do more of it and be intentional about it. And as Rashonda is saying, build into it a plan to educate and to share and to teach young people the significance of who we are, where we have been, what we have done, and where we are going. And I call that creating a public mind. Yeah. That's our job as newspaper owners, as communicators, is to create dialogue, conversation that results in a vocabulary, a syllabus in the mind of Black people that is expansive and that all adds up to our movement forward into a future in which we win.
Yeah, Naomi Davis, who's the executive director of Blacks in Green, which is a local nonprofit group that purchased the Till House in 2020, said that this house is a sacred treasure from our perspective, and our goal is to restore it and reinvent it as an international heritage pilgrimage destination. She said the plan is to time the 2025 opening with that of the Obama Presidential Library a few miles away. And as Bobby Henry, the publisher of the West Side Gazette, writes in, he says that entire neighborhood is being uplifted with community gardens and all kinds of good stuff. So it's really good to see overall that they haven't, and the neighborhood, not just Emmett Till and his mother, but the neighborhood hasn't been forgotten. Rashonda, I think that's important, right?
Absolutely. Again, it's about instilling a sense of pride. Like Al says, when the community has something they're proud about, they're talking about it. So they're telling people, you got to come see this. You got, and so that helps in spreading the people coming in to see it and spreading the pride in the community and getting just the history spread. So I think it's great that it's providing a boost to the community.
Yeah, quickly, my office in North Minneapolis, when I bought it, it was a small mansion that was known in the neighborhood as the Tara Mansion. And Tara was in homage to the antebellum South and the whole, grandeur of white largesse. When I bought it, I said, you know what? This cannot be the Tara Mansion. Can't be known as that. So I renamed our space. Our space is now called the Marcus Garvey House. And that's the act and the willful act of renaming and of claiming space that had been part of a distortion and bringing it to our truth, our light, our future.
Yeah, and speaking of Bobby Henry, we want to give a shout out to his classmate. Congratulations to our friend and colleague, Cheryl Smith, the publisher of Texas Metro News and iMessenger Media, inducted into the NABJ Hall of Fame. She definitely deserves it. There's probably no more deserving recipient than Cheryl Smith. Congratulations to Cheryl, a really good friend of the show. And we appreciate all she does in the Black press. Thank you all for watching. Thanks for Shonda Tate Billingsley. Check out the Defender Network in Houston. They're doing some great work there. And of course, Al McFarland, you see him on Conversations with Al McFarland each day. And of course, Insight News is keeping us all abreast of what's going on in the Twin Cities and nationally. So check out Insight News as well. Thanks for joining Let It Be Known. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you.